I'd like to welcome viewers from Amazonas magazine that wanted to see some moving pictures of these fish that are mentioned in the article. Today we'll have a look at a habitat on the island of Amami-Oshima, which is part of the Ryukyu island chain in the south of Japan. This place is special. It has steep hills, totally covered in forest, with lots of endemic snakes, mammals, frogs, and birds. These small rivers and streams are also super clear, and we will have a look at the small stream in the lowland. And if we get enough people interested, we will make a short second video with the highland species and maybe show some of the animals other than fish. This section of the stream is in the lowland, but we are up high enough not to have tidal influence. So the fish you see, even the brackish-water fish, are all in pure fresh water here. The water is clear, soft, near neutral pH, and in December the temperature is around 14 degrees Celsius, or 57 degrees Fahrenheit. That cold temperature also means that some of the gobies do not have color at this time of the year, and I will absolutely have to come back and get some photos and video when everyone is at their best color in the summer months. Despite the strong current, I was amazed to see that there are pipefish here. I had always assumed that pipefish occur in very slow-moving water or in tidal reed beds, but this is totally different. Pipefish are abundant here, and there seem to be two species, both Microphis brachyurus and Microphis leiaspis. According to my local guide, they actually swim differently, with the former swimming in a straight line along the bottom, the other more in curves in the open water. These pipefish swim fast and very erratically in the strong current. It was near impossible to photograph these things, because in Japan forests are crazy dense, so if you're in a place with trees, the rivers are actually quite dark. To make it worse, the days in Amami-Oshima in the winter had rain and clouded over skies. What makes this habitat so special is that we can see all kinds of gobies: Awaous melanocephalus, Tridentiger kuruwaiva, Sicyopterus japonicus, Stiphodon, percnopterygionus, Rhinogobius similis, and a second, yet undescribed Rhinogobius species, all occur together here. This time of the year, where the males have little color, makes it really tricky to see them on the substrate, but leaving a small video camera, they would soon come out and do their thing. We don't see the neon gobies in more than ankle-deep water. These tiny Stiphodon remain in the very shallow water, with the females below and the males perched on top of the fist-sized rocks above. This time of the year, they are hard to spot, and few males still have the bright neon color. So now let's look at a camera in the deepest part of the stream. Here the water is around 1 meter or roughly 3 feet deep, and some larger boulders cover the bottom. In the rainy season, when typhoon storms hit this island, huge amounts of water come off these steep hills, and I'm sure these small streams become torrents at that time. These larger boulders then get deposited behind the small rapids that have a steep slope, and end up forming this kind of flattened out deep pool. The algae-eating Sicyopterus are always first. They occupy the center of the stream, where there's algae growing on all surfaces. The Sicyopterus arrive right away, because the competition to feed off the algae on these flat stones is really high, and the fact that I was there and placed a video camera in the middle of their best feeding site deters them for less than a minute. The other gobies that feed on microinvertebrates come out a bit later, especially the Rhinogobius are really territorial, and the males need to defend their territory, new camera or not. Here in the deeper water, we also see more of the open water fish. Jungle perch, or Kuhlia marginata, as well as the Amami trout, a Ryukyu endemic subspecies of the marine smelt Plecoglossus altivelis. But more on those fish later. All gobies have this absolute fascination with their reflection, the same way some dwarf cichlids or bettas do. They are territorial fish, and once they have spotted a rival in their territory, they cannot let that stand. First, one of these Awaous visits, but I think it's not really a critical part of his territory, so he can let it go. Things are very different for the black goby, Tridentiger kuroiwai. The male cannot accept another in his area, and he is unable to focus on anything else. Unfortunately, he decides to confront himself at such close range that he's not fully focused. But you can see how beautiful this goby is. I bet that in summer, when it is breeding season for this fish, it is really spectacular. The black goby is also a bit larger than the others, growing to roughly 12 centimeters or 5 inches, and they would be the boss in this small stream, but seem to leave other goby species alone. They are just extremely territorial with rival males. As you can see, there are not many fish swimming in the open water here. For one, there are tons of kingfishers, egrets, and herons along these habitats. The other thing is that these streams are short. They drop off the mountains that are around 500 meters in elevation in a near straight line down to the very narrow strip of lowland and into the ocean. So all of these fish are tied to marine environments. Sometimes removing some rocks and exposing the substrate brings out a lot of fish. So let's see what happens if some of the rocks expose some small microinvertebrates and alter the territorial boundaries of our goby army. This one is behind the deep pool, where the stream widens a bit and flow is strong because of the shallow water, but the surface is not breaking from the waves of the small rapid. The jungle perch are common in this sector, catching any particle that arrives with the current in mid-water or anything that is brought along the surface. These cold months have a few or no insects, but I am sure in summer they have plenty of food arriving from that here. Like many places in Asia, the number of crabs is just astounding. These should be Geothelphusa dehani, and they seem to be under every rock. They are very common in all habitats on the island, as are the long-armed shrimp, Macrobranchium rosenbergi. With increasing altitude, we see more and more of these crustaceans and less fish diversity. You can now see we chose the right place for this camera. The jungle perch now come really close, even getting right into the camera. The exposed ground is not so interesting to them, but it is to the gobies. They are now coming in and grabbing small shrimp, worms, and maybe some insect larvae. Meanwhile, the cleaning crew of Sicyopterus go about their business. At this time, you will certainly have heard the strange whipping sound, and while you try to guess what that could be, it will be shown soon. Besides the increasing number of Awaous and Rhinogobius, and eventually Tridentiger, the jungle perch have now totally accepted the camera as part of the habitat. The Sicyopterus seems to be unaffected by any change. They will also rasp on my gloves or boots if I'm not moving around enough while photographing. Amazing to see just how many gobies occupy this narrow space. There must be at least 300 of them of various species in a stream just wide enough to park a car and no more than 75 centimeters or 30 inches deep. Moving the camera a bit upstream and looking at the same area with the current coming from behind the camera resolves our strange high-pitched whipping sound. These juvenile Amami trout actually feed on algae, and they have extremely sharp-edged jaws that act like scissors to cut individual strands of algae off these flat rocks. To do that, they have to turn their heads sideways and swoop down on the rock. Each time they produce a unique and clearly audible whipping sound that can be heard everywhere in the stream. It is very unusual and reminds me of some other fish species that are often heard before they can be seen, such as Retroculus xinguensis cichlids in the Xingu River in Brazil, or hunting large arapaima in the Amazon lowland. This feeding behavior, combined with the unusual sound, was one of my favorite observations in this habitat. Well, I hope you enjoyed a look at this habitat. Let us know in the comments, and maybe we can make a short video that shows the stream at higher elevation. There, the habitat changes a lot, with dense rainforest vegetation, giant ferns, and cooler, even more oxygen-rich water and much lower diversity. The most interesting goby genus, Lentipes, is present here, and even if it has no color at this time of the year, it will be the most interesting fish to observe in this island in the future. Make sure to share this video and subscribe to our channel.